Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Marie Hammen, who is a registered nurse, infusion nurse specialist, nutritional therapy practitioner, and the owner of Live Wellness IV. Marie started her career as an ER nurse, but she eventually started looking for something different and discovered a casual IV infusion job. She quickly saw the benefits of IV infusion therapy, which sparked an excitement to learn more about functional and preventative medicine, especially because at the time she was going through her own medical hurdles and was left with only answers of surgery and medications. At the time, she was also in her master's program, so she decided to pivot and pursue a nutritional therapy program instead. The more she learned, the more she fell in love with preventative medicine, and she knew that she couldn't carry out her passion and mission in the ER anymore. And with that, her business, Live Wellness IV, was born. Outside of work, Marie is an avid creator and loves to make everything from scratch, whether it's food, home products, or diving into homesteading techniques. She's been happily married to her husband Neil for almost 11 years and is the proud mother of 4 kiddos and their dog, who is awesomely named Gramps. The IV infusion world is gaining popularity, but not many people know about it, which is why we were beyond excited to sit down with Marie to ask all of the questions. And in addition to that, Marie makes her own tallow-based skincare products, and she just recently started a business around that, and we just had to dedicate an entire episode to learning about that with her as well. We learned a ton in our 4 episodes together, and we know you will too. So without further ado, let's jump into today's conversation.
Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. We are super excited to welcome Marie Hammen from Live Wellness IV in the studio today. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're super excited to dive into all things IV infusions and what they can do for our general wellness and more. So, but before we get into all of that, we are going to just go ahead and talk about our fun facts because we always like to ask a little bit more about the people that come on. So you have a dog named Gramps. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's like the awesomest name.
Yeah. So we got Gramps. It's always been a passion of mine to adopt an older dog with special needs.
Aww.
I follow Albert's Dog Lounge. So after we had put our dog down after 8 years last March, I stumbled upon Gramps. He stuck out to me. We had to have him. He comes from a pretty traumatic background, so it all worked out.
Aww.
His name was Gramps. He is older, not sure how old. They had found him in the Dominican. So with the kids trying to come up with a name, they loved Gramps. It stuck.
It's stuck.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
he's
awesome.
He's a little blind and deaf, so it doesn't change the fact with his name. I don't think it comes from it either way. Yeah. So the kids love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Another fun fact that you love to do is you like to make homemade everything. We kind of heard that in the intro, but what kinds of things do you do, or what kinds of things that you make?
It started after about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Just kind of swapping things out. So I started looking at my skincare products, everything in the bathroom. So lotions, soaps, face wash. And then I started over the last couple of years looking into the kitchen. So I'm on the sourdough bandwagon, just like everybody else, but then trying to go back to the roots of canning. So jellies, jams, really anything, water bath, pressure canning,
I feel like we should have another podcast with her on just to talk about all those. Like we will talk in the fourth podcast. We're going to talk about wellness, like skincare that you like to do. And I'm going to freak out about that because we have a lot in common. Actually,
yeah, tallow products are all the rage. So we're going to be diving into those in episode 4.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. I make my own out of lard because that's what we have, so we can geek out a little bit on that.
Yes.
But. It's going to be really great. So I know that there's a lot of things that we could dive in with all that conversation. So, okay, so let's talk about what you have with your business. So, how did you get into this industry? Kind of give us a little summary about that.
So I stumbled upon IV infusion more accidentally. So I was in the ER during COVID looking kind of for something to help distract me because it was pretty stressful times for everybody.
Yeah, I imagine.
So I was just doing Google search, found a job for an IV infusion registered nurse, and I applied, got the job. I was the nurse that covered from Milwaukee all the way up north.
Oh, okay.
So I was very casual. It was a very casual positions. So this was probably 3.5, 4 years ago. Nobody was doing really infusions in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I feel like the infusion thing has really just kind of started within the last couple of years. So yeah.
Yes. South, Madison, Milwaukee, they were picking up on it. The majority of the infusions I were getting were for elderly that had flu, COVID. The kids were calling from out of state. And I started seeing the effects that these infusions that we're having on the elderly population with different things like COVID and the flu. So it really got me changing my mindset.
Yeah. I mean, why it's great for elderly. Why not for everybody else? And how can it help more people? Right.
Absolutely. So I have a question on like going to the basics here. What is an IV infusion?
So an IV infusion, so IV intravenous, so it's a catheter. It goes into the vein and it delivers fluids and vitamins directly into your bloodstream.
Okay. And you have quite a menu now that you have your own business, right? Well, actually, let's back up a little bit. So you had this job that you got during COVID. You kind of opened your eyes, but then how did you decide to branch out and start your own thing?
Yes. So after I found this job with the IV infusion, I started looking at healthcare differently, looking at what we were doing in the ER. I have a tremendous appreciation for everybody that's working in the ER, all the medical professionals. But what were we doing to really get to the root cause? Like people would come in, we would tell them, take your medications, XYZ, follow up. But what were we really doing? So I was in my master's program at that time. Started digging further. I had found a book. It started with the book in this infusion business that I was working with. Went down a rabbit hole of root cause, and I just kept learning more, and I kind of put a pause on my master's program, and then I had stopped with this other infusion company. Took about a year to really gain the knowledge, to further educate myself. I started in this program. It was a nutritional therapy practitioner program. So really looking at food, nutrition for preventative, looking at vitamins, really digging into all the vitamins, what they're doing for our body, and what we're lacking even in our food, our soil. So then that got me into my IV business.
Okay. And when did you actually open and start?
So I had started probably been about 2.5 years. I was pretty quiet because I was finishing my nursing contract in the ER. So I had a handful of clients. I was doing mobile infusions for probably about 8 months until I got my brick and mortar. Still was kind of slow as I was finishing in the ER. And it's been about 1.5 years since I've been in my brick and mortar going full time.
Awesome. So exciting. So cool. So I'm curious on, when people think of IVs, they think of I'm sick, I'm in the hospital, I need fluids. How and when did this become a wellness option? Because you said here in our area, it's a little bit newer, but maybe more south or in bigger cities. Has it been around for a while?
It has. It's been around for quite some time. And I know in a future episode, we'll talk about NADs, NAD infusion specifically. And that's been around since the 1960s.
Oh, wow.
I have, like I said, when I stumbled upon this job posting, that's really when I was starting to look into it. And then come to find out that they've been in the bigger cities, Florida, California, Arizona. So we started looking at it more towards wellness. And it can be used for, the big thing that people think is hangovers, but really looking in for wellness, whether you're chronically ill, acutely ill. And when we would see people come into the ER, people with migraines, it's like if you could just take somebody that had a migraine and give them fluids and IV vitamins. Magnesium is a huge one that people usually lack for migraines. Instead of them coming in, getting fluids, and we would usually have a recipe in the ER too that we would follow. It would be about 5 to 6 medications, heavy medications, and then they would send them on their way. But if we could really kind of get to the root cause, help support them, isn't that a better option?
Well, and to treat them with a more natural option.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for that, especially since COVID. So you also offer injections, is that correct?
That's correct.
So what determines how a vitamin is delivered? Why is it both?
So this is always a question that I get a lot. How many do I need? How much do I need? How often should I come in? And my answer will always be the same. It's so individual. Are you suffering with something that's acute? Is it chronic? How dehydrated are you? Are you coming in for just wellness? Are you looking to support an acute illness like the flu? I will say if you're coming in and you need more of that intense turnaround, or if you're really looking for the more drastic results, that's when we look at IVs first. And you can get an IV and we'll kind of set you up on a little regimen based off what your needs are. Some people come in that are really tackling their wellness. We'll recommend IV infusions more frequently, and then you can kind of taper down. For those who are pretty well and they're looking just to maintain wellness, once you start getting in tune with your body with the IVs, you can kind of sense when you need an IV. People will come in every 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes, every 3 months. And then some will get injections, or vitamin injections in between those IV infusions. They're quicker. You're still getting that vitamin support, but they're just not as intense, or the dose is not as much.
Sure. And you're mentioning some things that you're helping with, but I'd love to dive into those a little bit more. So hangovers is one thing that people oftentimes think of this as a remedy for, right?
And it does work.
Yes. Yeah. So there's that population. Who are you seeing the most coming into your clinic? Is it for immune boosting? Is it people with more chronic issues?
Immune and the chronic issues.
Okay. So what kind of chronic issues?
Anything from autoimmune, anybody struggling with GI absorption, not being able to get in those nutrients or deficient. Migraines is also a big one.
How do they find you? Do their doctors tell them to go to an IV fusion place, or how do they, because it's an extra step. People just don't tend to think like this. So how do they find you?
It is becoming more known.
Okay.
And I think the more education that people are doing, because I will say, a couple of years ago, everyone's like, it's expensive. It's just, you're paying for expensive water and vitamins that you don't need. But now as people are starting to see the benefits, rather than going in and putting a lot of those toxic medications. So I would say the doctors' mindsets are kind of changing.
Good.
So there are some doctors out there that are more preventative, and they will tell people to come. So we're still working with that medical community. I know I've partnered with Alba Birth Center, so they'll refer a lot of their pregnant women to me for fluids. So there are different professions out there that will, but otherwise it's the majority of the people are doing a Google search, learning on their own.
That's really great to hear, though, that the mindset is changing a little bit. I mean, I feel like that we've seen this more and more too in just the wellness health industry. People are just kind of waking up. I mean, COVID really pushed people to start looking at different directions and stuff too. So that makes me really happy to hear that as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you just mentioned pregnancy. So
Yes.
how do you help women during that season? Can you help with like first trimester nausea, stuff like that as well? Or is it primarily hydration?
Yeah, we can help all the way through pregnancy. Pregnancy is, we have to be extra cautious with our pregnant moms. So they will look at the person individually, make sure that it's right for them. I do have to get okay with their OB, who they are seeing. And then they're also screened by one of our medical providers too, to ensure that it's safe for them. And that goes with everybody too. Safety and quality is our number one priority. So everybody is screened, looking at your past medical conditions, health history, allergies.
Do they take, do you do labs, or is there certain times when somebody needs to get a lab done before they come and see you, or?
I do not personally do labs. That is something that I'm hopeful for in the future. Some people will come in with labs that they've had previously drawn. There are certain medication or vitamins, I should say, that we have to monitor labs. Yeah. So like vitamin D is it's a good example. So vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. So your body will hold on to that more. So we can only offer about every 4 to 6 weeks without prior lab work. The rest of our vitamins they are water soluble. So your body's going to take what it needs, excrete the rest in your urine. Mm-hmm. Yes, you could definitely reach toxic levels of vitamins, just like anything, but the doses that we're giving, that's very rare, and you would have to be coming in several times a week, giving you very high doses of these vitamins.
We talked about how this is becoming a little bit more well known in even our area, and I think that there are a few different places that you can get this now. What are the credentials that you need to have to be able to do this? Can any nurse start a business like this, or you're talking a lot about these vitamins, right? And there's fat soluble vitamins, there's water soluble vitamins. You really need to make sure that you're aware of people's contraindications and just anything else. So what kind of credentials do you need to be able to offer these, as well as you mentioned having a medical team behind you? So why don't you fill us in a little bit on that?
So you do have to be a registered nurse. And I would say, education is huge. There are nurses that are kind of jumping into it. They don't have the IV skill set and the knowledge behind it. So they are going to struggle more. So that was something that I had my IV skill set down from the ER. I spent a good chunk of my days just doing IVs. But then I also wanted that knowledge to back it. So for me personally, that's why it took me a couple of years. I wasn't going to jump into something until I had the knowledge. So really getting into that nutritional therapy program, learning more. I'm still going through different certifications and there's specific IV vitamin infusions, like high dose vitamin C, high dose glutathione. There's a lot of continuing education that you have to do. As far as having a medical director, so I am currently under a company with Guardian Medical, and my medical director is Dr. Christopher Seitz. So he writes our protocols. If I have a new protocol from my own research that I've done, it has to be approved by him. He has to sign off. He reviews all of our charts. And like I mentioned before, our clients that come in, they're screened, so they're reviewed by one of their medical providers as well.
When you say protocol, are you saying like a new blend? Like if people go on your website, you have kind of like a menu of everything that you offer. So are you saying that we talked about how you enjoy being in the kitchen and like doing all these different things and creating products. So is this almost a creative side too, where once you have the knowledge base, are you able to come up with creative and unique blends to help meet somebody individually and uniquely? And then that medical director helps you with that? Or is it more of these are blends that some higher up, IV infusion group oversees, and then that's what you order?
Yes, absolutely. So there is your own creative side that you can do to it too. I am currently looking at a nice stress relief blend. That was a big one that people had asked for, but a lot more goes into it than what people think. It's not just throwing, your magnesium and your taurine and these vitamins that are going to help with stress. You really have to look at, how do the vitamins interact with each other? Do they contraindicate each other? Sometimes you add vitamins together and they block each other out. So getting those protocols written, you can get them from medical directors and they'll sign off on it. But
I think one thing that, especially with the people that tend to listen to this kind of podcast, this is a question that they might have is, are there any like fillers in these blends or these infusions, injections? Is there anything that's extra, or is it pure like saline, vitamins? What can you say about that?
Yep, we don't add, so it is just pure saline. We use sodium chloride as our IV, as our base. So the fluid itself, and that usually comes in different size bags. So depending again on what you need, comes in a 250 ml bag all the way up to 1 liter. And then our vitamins, so we use accredited vitamin companies. Right now I'm using Olympia Pharmacy. So they're very well controlled, regulated vitamin companies. And we'll use just the straight vitamins. I do offer a couple different like medications, Zofran for nausea, Toradol for pain, but that's all we have aside just from the vitamin itself. So zinc, vitamin C.
I have so many more questions, but I think we're going to finish up this episode here, and we're going to continue with those questions in episode 2, because this is just so fascinating to think about being able to get vitamins directly into your bloodstream, and how if you are coming down with a cold, or your kids are sick and you want some immune boosting, or you're pregnant, you're dealing with nausea, like how cool is this that there is a wellness option that can deliver things in such a fluid and fast way. So we have plenty more questions to ask, but we're going to save those for episode 2. But before we close this one out, I do want to mention to our listeners that Marie is offering 10% off any infusion service when you mention that you learned about her from the Motherhood Alliance podcast. So if this is intriguing you at all, I would definitely recommend going on her website, looking at the different options that she offers, seeing what might be a good fit for you, and then calling her with any questions, because this is a whole new world for a lot of people. So if you're listening to this and you have questions, Marie, how can people get in contact with you?
So I have multiple ways. I have Facebook, I have Instagram. You can find my phone number on my website. My website's www.livewellnessiv. That's LIVE wellnessiv.com. I also have email. So several ways, Facebook message. I'm here to answer all the questions because there's a lot and it's new. So I get it.
What are your handles on social media? Is it just Live Wellness IV? Is that what people should search?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we are going to continue this amazing conversation. We're going to be talking more about what does this process actually look like? What should you be feeling? How long do results last? What are the costs of these things? We have a lot of things to cover in episode 2, part 2 of this conversation. So we'll continue with that shortly. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.